This episode is brought to you by Standard Deviant Brewing. Don't sleep on Standard Deviant's 7th annual chili cook-off this Sunday, February 9th at noon. Come try chili from Michelin star chefs and backyard champions alike, most in themed costumes, and vote for your favorite. Entry to this one-of-a-kind event is free. Just buy a drink and get a spoon. What better way to pregame for the Super Bowl? My MO is to load up on beer and chili and nap my way through the game. But that's just me. Located at 14th Street between Mission and South Van Ness, Standard Deviant has been making the coldest tasting beer in SF since 2016.
You started socializing, getting to know the city, and a couple of them were native San Franciscans, so they reveled in showing me all over the city from all of the hot spots along California.
That was Barbara Gratta, owner, operator, and winemaker at Gratta Wines. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco, a podcast about artists, activists, and small businesses that make this city unique. In this episode, we meet and get to know Barbara. I have to give my friend Annika Wu a shout out here. Thanks to Annika's beef jerky line Bon Jerk doing a pop-up at Gratta a couple years ago, I came to know a cute little wine bar and Italian goods store on 3rd Street in the Bayview. Fast forward to just before last fall's election, when I popped in for a glass of wine and to chat with the oh-so-down-to-earth proprietor of the place. A couple glasses of wine later, Barbara agreed to come on the podcast to share her story. Here's Barbara Gratta.
I always start with, I'm the winemaker for Gratta Wines, and that is our business. So I'm the owner, winemaker, janitor, all of the above for Gratta Wines.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just, that's all wonderful. Okay. Let's get going. So, yeah, like I said, however far back in your ancestry you would like to start us on the journey of how you came to be here.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from White Plains, New York, and my grandparents came here from the south of Italy, Calabria. From the Calabria, my father's side was from Calabria. My mother's side was from Bari area.
Oh, yeah. I was in Bari last summer.
Okay. I still haven't visited myself, only like as a pit stop on the way to get a ferry to Greece. But
okay.
I'm due to get down that far south.
It's a beautiful part of Italy that I had never seen. We spent most of our time, that was kind of where we flew in and out. And then down, I guess, south from there.
Further
in
down.
Puglia. Yeah, and where the Trulies are?
Yeah.
Those little, those wonderful little...
So they came over in the early 20s and settled in Brooklyn.
And which side was this?
Both sides,
Both
actually.
sides, okay.
And then moved up the line to White Plains up in Westchester, and that's where I grew up. And, spent my childhood as a Italian-American girl doing the Sunday dinners with family and that whole tradition that the family tried to maintain. And
were your grandparents part of your life growing up?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So it was like both sets of grandparents.
Both sides we saw on a regular basis. More so my mother's side.
Okay.
But on my dad's side, we would see them fairly regularly, and definitely over the holidays, and grew up with the cousins on both sides.
I was going to say aunts, uncles, and cousins.
Yeah, all of that. And, the typical Sunday dinner was at my aunt's, my mother's sisters, and all of the cousins were there. And, we grew up very close with them. I mean, in the beginning, we lived in the two-family house. So we lived upstairs, and the aunt lived downstairs with the cousins. So we were really like siblings, that set of cousins. We saw them and spent all of that time together every week.
Every week. So Sunday dinners, just maybe take a ballpark guess how many people would be part of these dinners?
Probably with all of the cousins and aunts and uncles that would come in and out, because it was that kind of open door thing, would be 30 plus friends of the cousins. And, so the pot was on the stove.
How many people are cooking that?
People needed to eat. You'd throw more pasta in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the gravy was made in the morning.
Yeah.
And that sat. And then we, pretty much ate by midday. And snacked later in the day.
Yeah.
And the cards came out, and it was like that whole scene. You know, if you ever saw the movie Fatso with Dom DeLuise.
I haven't seen that. I know the movie,
Anne
but I never saw it.
Bancroft. She wrote, starred, and produced that film, and directed it, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Is a very familiar scene
Yeah.
to what I grew up around. So if you ever get a chance to watch that movie, check
I'm
it
also
out.
thinking,
Really
have you seen The Bear, the TV show?
I haven't. No.
It's a much smaller version of what you're talking about, but it's, extended family, and they do the Feast of the Seven Fishes. And
Right. I'm getting ready to prepare for that next week. So I
Okay.
try to keep that tradition going. We've missed it a couple of years since I've lived in California, but my partner and I typically do that and invite
Love
people
it.
over, and
Love
we have 7 fishes and do the whole thing.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really fun.
So you don't have to betray your exact age, but what decade are we talking about that you were growing up in?
I'm not afraid to say how old I am. I mean, I was
wonderful.
born in 1960,
Okay.
so my birthday's coming up. I'll be 64 next week.
Oh, like the
And
Beatles song.
Yeah, exactly. Will you still love me, I hope?
Yeah, I will.
So yeah, I mean, I'm saying, mid-60s, late 60s.
Was the
70s
growing up.
Was that timeline
Yeah.
in my life, yeah.
And so besides these incredible and just, I want to be in one of these, like in another life. I did not grow up Italian American. But anyway, besides those Sunday dinners, what kind of things stand out for you in your childhood?
In my childhood. Well, every weekend we spent at my grandmother's on Saturdays. So you'd go up the street, which is how we refer to that, to go shopping up the street.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it involved the Sears cafeteria.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And in White Plains they had Macy's and some of the department stores that are typical of New York and Times Square. But White Plains, we had some of them on Mamaroneck Avenue. So we would go up the street, do a little shopping, and maybe stop at the White Plains Diner and have lunch. And then we would land at my grandmother's for cake and coffee Saturday afternoon. And that was the preemptive to the Sunday dinner, I think, because on that day, my grandmother, with all of her sisters, she's one of 13, the ones that still were living would show up. Every single day, they'd have the pot of coffee on the table. They would have, somebody would bring a lemon cake, whatever the cake, the Entenmann's in the box too, that cake.
Yep.
And they just sat around and pretty much played the numbers. They were very much that what you hear about, it was true in my family.
So not just, I heard you say that your grandmother said, so not just your aunts and uncles, but your parents' aunts and uncles came over.
That's
Did
right.
the families know each other in Italy when they came to the U.S.?
No.
Can we back up for a second and hear the story of how your parents met?
My parents,
if you know that,
met. Let's think here. My parents met for my younger uncle, actually. My mother's youngest brother went to school with my father's younger sister. They lived in different towns, but they both went to the same high school, so they were in the same circle of friends. So my mother and father met per those siblings.
From their siblings.
For their siblings, yeah. And they married in 1958 and had my first brother in 59, and then I came, and then so that's how they met. And when I think about it, there was this circle of friends between West Harrison, which is where my father lived as a teenager, and his sister, and they grew up for high school. My mother was in White Plains, so those towns are all within miles of each other.
Right.
10, 15
smaller,
minutes.
not small, but smaller towns.
Suburban areas.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was your parents and maybe some of their siblings that brought those families together.
That brought the families together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the funny thing is they all knew of each other through the parents, through my grandparents. There was word, we know of the Capobiancos, because that's my mother's side. The Grattas, they knew of each other within the Italian community. I would attribute it to that. Not really knowing that for sure, but I would attribute it to that small town.
Was church a part of your life growing up?
What?
Church.
Oh, Catholic. Yeah.
I wasn't going to say it, but that was my guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I too grew up Catholic, for the
Did
record.
you? I mean, we weren't very religious. We didn't have that in the household. It was more tradition around food and family. I remember they would make us go to church on Easter and the holidays and all of that. And I do remember this one funny story. My grandmother, gave me money for Easter Sunday church. And maybe all of us, because we all went the cousins.
For the collection.
For the collection.
Yeah.
She says, put this in for me. But she would never go,
Almost like a weird bribe.
It was kind of a weird thing. But that particular memory I have of that Sunday, Easter Sunday, was the older two cousins. They probably don't remember this, but the twins that were our older, they were probably in their teens, and I was probably, I would say, 10 at this time. They were in charge of us. They were in charge of the younger cousins, so they took us to church, and I have this memory of them bringing us. We were up on the roof in our Easter Sunday patent leathers, hats, the whole thing, walking. I mean, it's just like crazy stuff.
It's one of those things, like, you think back and you're like, how did we not die?
How did we not, fall off of the roof of that church? And we're looking at, but it was a lower part, if I recall, because how did we get up there? I don't remember, but I do have that memory. It's like, oh my God, we're walking, and then when you get back home for Sunday dinner, church was great. We said our prayers, we did what we were supposed to do, we listened.
Did you divvy up the money, or did you go spend it, or what?
No, I don't think we went into the service.
At all.
I don't think we did. Yeah. So we must have
just pocketed it
or something.
Little
or saved
piggy
it
bank
for next Sunday. I don't know. I don't remember what we did with that.
Yeah, no, but I have my own memories of skipping CCD.
Oh yeah.
That whole thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what were those boys thinking?
Yeah, and you figure it out. You figure it out. That's like, it's just not for me.
Yeah, church.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, after. What was it? Confirmation, 8th grade. We had the decision to continue or not, but the parents made us go through confirmation, or what is it? The first one? I don't even remember.
Communion's first, and then confirmation.
Yeah. So after that, it just sort of went off the rails,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're born in '60, you became a teenager around the time I was born, actually, 73 or so. Yeah. So, do you want to take us through your teenage years?
The teenage years. Well,
up in Westchester County.
Up in Westchester. Well, this is the stranger thing about this story, is that we moved down south to Florida.
Okay.
And I finished high school down there.
Okay.
So it was sort of a hard time as a teenager, because here you've spent all of your early years with your people that you know since kindergarten.
Friends and everyone.
And you start high school and you're moving in that direction, and then you sort of get pulled out of that. So I felt very disconnected in high school, because I was in a place I didn't know anybody.
Right.
We finished up down there, and I remained down there.
Okay. Where in Florida?
On the West Coast, Bradenton, Sarasota area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a lot of Italian culture.
Okay.
Not a lot of that. And there might be kind of a funny story. My mother was so, distraught in some ways for the move, that one day she was out trying to find the food that we eat, that we're accustomed to eating, and she saw a sausage truck.
Okay.
With the Fridella sign on it, which was the sausage that we would get up in the New York area, and she followed the truck.
Oh my God.
To see where they were going to deliver it.
Oh my God.
And she connected and, established a relationship, and that's how she, started finding, well, particularly the sausage was very important at that time.
I mean, whether she's religious or not, that has to be a sign. You're like, well, okay.
Maybe this is going to be okay.
Helped her be okay.
It helped her
ground
be okay.
her.
It helped her be okay.
So you said you stayed after this not so great rest of high school.
Yeah, I finished high school. I did a couple years. I'm a physical therapy assistant by trade, so I did that program down there and worked in that field for 10 years or so.
Oh, wow. So you went to a higher education after school? Okay.
Yeah.
After high school? Okay.
Yeah, after high school. And, I was as I got older and I realized, I just don't want to, I never liked it really. I always felt it was not, I never have really attributed that as my home. I've always associated my upbringing, everything with New York, because I had a stronger sense of who I am from that part of my life.
It was more foundational, informative.
And it stuck.
Yeah.
It really did. I
Yeah.
mean, we maintained that. We would go back up all the time to New York and maintain the relationships with the cousins and
I was going to say, you must have still had
grandparents.
family.
Yeah, we still had
back there.
family. But funny enough, a lot of people ended up moving down south. Cousins that, they wanted to have kids and raise families. It was more cost effective. But Florida was a very different place back then than it is now. I would never even consider moving there at this point in my life. But, I spent a good amount of time there.
Yeah.
And it was a different world back in the 70s and the 80s in particular, know.
Right. You said you have a older brother.
I do.
Is it just the two of you?
I have an older and a younger brother.
Okay.
So there's three
How
of
did
us.
they do down in Florida, your brothers?
Not the same. Same. Not well.
Yeah.
My older brother, worked with my father, who had a construction company.
Okay.
And then later in his life, he did restaurant work. He had a couple of restaurants, and my brother is in that world. My older brother is a chef.
Italian restaurant?
Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
Classic of what you would consider Italian up in New York.
Yeah.
The steaks, the chops.
Oh, yeah.
Those kinds of kind of like a John's Grill sort of place.
I say John's or Joe's of Westlake-ish.
Yeah,
kind of
in
like,
that in that realm.
Yeah,
Yes.
dining.
Yes.
Not only red sauce and pasta.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And he's still doing that?
And he's still in that field.
Back in New York, or?
No, he's in Florida.
In
still.
Florida, okay.
Although with the changes that have happened, he's looking to maybe get out of that state.
Yeah. It's a weird place.
It's a weird place right now. Yeah.
Besides all that stuff, there's alligators.
Yeah, and there's gators, and there's wild boar that run around like in the woods, and snakes, and I left there in 89, 90, and I came out here as a traveling physical therapy assistant. That's what got me to California. Although
I was
had
going to ask.
vacationed out here before, and I knew San Francisco would grab me.
Let's hear that first visit here. Let's hear that story.
The first visit in the 80s.
Yeah,
I came
what
out
was
here.
the
It was just a vacation.
occasion? Just a vacation?
It was just a vacation with a coworker. She and I came out here, another physical therapist, and we stayed at some hotel over on Van Ness near the Wharf. Or every time I drive over, not Van Ness and what's the one? Not
Bay?
California.
Where it ends?
Yeah.
Bay and North
Bay
Point?
and North Point. Right around there, we stayed in some crazy little. I don't even know if it's that Travelodge. Every time I drive by that Travelodge, I think, maybe that's where we stayed.
Yeah.
But we did all the tourist things, we did the Wharf, we didn't get into any neighborhoods, we just primarily did the tourist thing. But
The
we
Northeast.
visited a former coworker who he and his wife had moved out here, and they were in Monterey.
Oh.
So we took a drive down to see those guys while we were in town, and yeah, there was something about I remember sitting on his deck, and he had a chime.
Wind chime. Yeah.
And that caught my attention, and the weather resonated with me. We came out here, I don't know, I think it was probably summertime, maybe August. It was really lovely. Weather was beautiful the whole time we were here.
The rest of the world was melting.
Everything
and you're
else
like,
was going wrong. But yeah, we did that we think we were here for about 10 days, and when I went back, I thought I'm going to have to visit that place again.
Okay. And
then
what year was that first
was like
visit?
85, maybe?
85, okay.
Maybe 85, 84, 85.
Okay.
Yeah, early 80s.
But it stuck. The
It
impression
stuck with me.
of
Yeah,
that 10-day
it really
trip
grabbed
stuck.
me.
Yeah.
I don't even think we went to North Beach. I don't think we explored as much as I would have, maybe had I been with some other people. I don't know.
Went to Monterey. Did you go over the Golden Gate Bridge?
Yeah, we did that. We went to go. We did all those things.
Yeah.
The bridge. I think we even went over to Oakland. We went over the Oakland Bay just to drive the bridge. Maybe no, I don't remember going to Treasure Island. But yeah, we just kind of did that side, the tourist things that we did. Yeah.
But that was enough to...
It was enough to make me want to come back and visit again.
To visit again. And when was the second visit?
When I moved here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that
when I
was
took that job in 91, it was a traveling position, so they used to kind of like traveling nurses. They set you up in housing for 3 months, and then they get the gig for you for a few months at a time. And I kept renewing the contract every 3 months. And I started out living down by, not Daly City, but Fort Funston. There's a hotel, not a hotel, but there's a housing on the lake down there.
Lake Merced.
Lake Merced,
Yeah.
where...
Park Merced.
Park Merced, not Park Merced, by the lake, because the lake was right across the street from this place they housed me.
Speaking of Joseph Westlake, that's on the way to Joseph Westlake.
And that was one of the places that I would frequent, because I
let's hear
lived
about
in
that.
walking distance to that
In
place.
91, you said?
Yeah.
I mean...
I think it's very different now.
It's very different now.
I think I preferred it then. I
Okay.
don't know if I can
Fair
say that
enough.
out loud, but I just
Fair
did.
enough.
I
don't think you're alone in that opinion.
Yeah.
But some things, there's a through line.
There's consistency
There's a
with,
through
with
line.
some of it, yeah. But it was busy and big then, but not like it is. It's different now. The experience is different now.
But at the time, you were
At the
stoked.
time, I was into it, and I could walk there.
Yeah.
You know?
And you did.
And I did.
Walk there.
I did, until I wanted to move closer to the city.
Yeah.
And-
Not that San Francisco is or was devoid of Italian imagery and iconography, but that was kind of your version of the sausage truck for your mom.
Right.
You've moved across the country, and you're like...
when she came here, the other one in North Beach.
The other Joe's.
The other Joe's in North
Yeah.
Beach. She loved
Yeah.
that place because
Yeah.
it was very reminiscent of, and that she always wanted to go there
Yeah.
when she would come visit. Reminiscent of places back home, you know.
Back in Westchester.
In Westchester, White
Amazing.
Plains, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So when you came here, you said it was like 3-month intervals and you kept doubling down. Did you have a plan to stay?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not
me neither.
really.
That happens a lot.
But I knew I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I did 9 months. And, and then I started meeting people. I actually came out
here
during that time.
Okay.
And I wasn't out back there. It wasn't,
I mean, that's a thing.
The thing
that's
about...
feather in our cap here is that people can do that.
Yeah.
And have been.
It wasn't comfortable where I was living to do that. Even though Florida was a little different, it wasn't back then. So you play the role.
Yeah. So you're in your
time.
early 30s at this point.
Yes.
Kind of the early-ish 90s. Yeah. Do you want to talk about, you lived out in the southwest corner, sounds like. Do you want to talk about getting to know San Francisco beyond your neighborhood?
Yeah. I mean, I worked on California Street in one of the skilled nursing facilities over there. That's where I was positioned in the beginning. And
California and what cross street are we talking?
Like Laurel Village area.
Oh, yeah. I live over there.
Very fun little neighborhood, right? So I worked there, and I made friends, with the people I worked with, and you started socializing, getting to know the city, and a couple of them were native San Franciscans, so they reveled in showing me all over the city from all of the hot spots along California. What is that little bar on the corner of Masonic and Fillmore, maybe? The Pig and Thistle? What is that?
Pig and Whistle. That's on my street, actually.
Yeah, that was like a
Wood
place
and Geary.
we would go for happy hour.
Pig and Whistle. Wow.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
drove by it last week, and I thought, oh, it's still here. I was happy to see it was still there.
It is still there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Literally my block.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And is it still a fun little bar to hang out in? I haven't been in
It
decades.
has changed.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's just different.
Yeah.
They took the pool table out, and I love a good pool table. It's a little
It's
more...
a deal breaker in some ways.
It can be.
You know?
It doesn't have to be. And this is a lot of bars. We're going a little bit off track, but it's fine. A lot of TVs. And a lot of TVs playing a lot of sports.
Okay.
And a lot of men's
that was not
sports.
in there when I used to hang out
just
in there.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, the neighborhood it hasn't changed as much as a lot of neighborhoods have, but maybe people have aged and people's lives and priorities are different. And it's just a bunch. My wife has been there 20 years. I've only been there almost 10. But the pandemic, I feel like, did a number on it.
I have to go back and check it out. I want to do that.
Let me know
sometime.
when you're
We'll
there.
We'll go have a drink
grab
at the
it.
bar over
Absolutely.
there.
Fish and chips are still good.
Okay. That That I do remember,
Yeah.
Yeah, this gentleman, Hugh, that introduced me to that place, you know, he was that classic San Franciscan. He always had a raincoat on. This was the perfect weather for him.
Yeah, this is
and
Hugh's weather.
If it wasn't foggy, he wasn't happy.
Right.
And he lived out in the Sunset. I don't remember where he lived anymore, but I'm been out of touch with that group of people for a long time, so I'm not sure.
That was Barbara Gratta. Check back next week to hear the conclusion of Barbara's story, including how she got into making wine and opened her shop on 3rd Street in the Bayview. Part 2 drops next Tuesday, wherever you get podcasts. Music for Storied San Francisco was produced, performed, and curated by Otis McDonald. Our contributing producer is Aaron Lim of Bitch Talk Podcast. And the show is produced and hosted by me, Jeff Hunt. Now in our 7th season, we have more than 220 episodes available on our website, storiedsf.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If possible, please, please, please rate and review the show. I want to know what you think. Follow us on Instagram and Threads at storiedsf, and reach out to us there or email us at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Be extra careful crossing the street. And keep being wacky, creative, and kind out there. See you next time on Storied San Francisco. We acknowledge and respect the first humans of the unceded land we call San Francisco, the Ramaytush Ohlone. We condemn the genocide of these and other tribes across the Western Hemisphere. We honor their legacy and history, and we support rematriation and sovereignty efforts.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcast.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.